Revealing all about Janet Jackson. Janet Damita Jo Jackson, born May 16, 1966, is an American singer, songwriter, actress, and dancer. At age 18, Janet Jackson eloped with singer James DeBarge in September 1984. The marriage was annulled in November 1985. In 1986, Jackson began dating dancer-songwriter-director Renee Elizondo Jr. In March 1991, Jackson married Elizondo Jr. and the union was kept a secret until the divorce was public. Elizondo filed a lawsuit against her, estimated to have been between $10 to $25 million. A settlement was reached and the divorce was finalized in October 2003. From 2002 to 2009, Jackson dated music producer-rapper-songwriter Jermaine Dupri. Jackson was introduced to Qatari businessman Wissam Al-Mana in October 2006 and began dating him in 2010. The couple became engaged and married privately in 2012. In January 2017, Jackson gave birth to a son. In April 2017, it was reported that the couple had separated and were pursuing a divorce, and was announced by Jackson the following month. She is noted for her innovative, socially conscious and sexually provocative records, as well as elaborate stage shows. Her sound and choreography became a catalyst in the growth of MTV, enabling her to rise to prominence while breaking gender and racial barriers in the process. Lyrical content, which focused on social issues and lived experiences, set her reputation as a role model for youth. The 10th and youngest child of the Jackson family, she made her debut at the MGM Grand. She starred in the variety television series The Jacksons in 1976 and went on to appear in other television shows throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, including Good Times, Different Strokes, and Fame. After signing a recording contract with A&M Records in 1982, she became a pop icon following the release of her third and fourth studio albums Control, 1986, and Rhythm Nation 1814, 1989. Her collaborations with record producers Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis incorporated elements of rhythm and blues, funk, disco, rap, and industrial beats, which led to crossover success in popular music. In 1991, Jackson signed the first of two record-breaking multi-million-dollar contracts with Virgin Records, establishing her as one of the highest-paid artists in the industry. Prior to her first studio project with Virgin, she appeared in her first of several lead film roles in Poetic Justice, 1993. Her two studio albums which followed, Janet, 1993, and The Velvet Rope, 1997, saw her develop a public image as a sex symbol. These records, along with their promotional music videos and live performances in concert tours, branded Jackson as one of the world's most erotic performers, garnering both criticism and praise. By the end of the 1990s, she was named by Billboard magazine as the second most successful recording artist of the decade in the United States after Mariah Carey. The release of her seventh studio album All For You in 2001 coincided with a celebration of her impact on the recording industry as the subject of the inaugural MTV Icon special. The backlash from the 2004 Super Bowl 38 halftime show controversy resulted in an industry blacklisting under the direction of Les Moonves, then CEO of CBS Corporation. Jackson subsequently experienced reduced radio airplay, televised promotion and sales figures from that point forward. After parting ways with Virgin Records, she released her 10th studio album Discipline, 2008, her first and only album with Island Records. In 2015, she partnered with BMG Rights Management to launch her own record label, Rhythm Nation, and released her 11th studio album, Unbreakable, the same year. Since then, she has continued to release music as an independent artist. Jackson has sold over 100 million records, making her one of the world's best-selling music artists. She has amassed an extensive catalog, with singles such as Nasty, Rhythm Nation, That's the Way Love Goes, Together Again, and All For You. She holds the record for the most consecutive top 10 entries on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 Singles chart by a female artist with 18. She is also the only artist in the history of the chart to have 7 commercial singles from one album, Rhythm Nation 1814, peak within the top 5 positions. In 2008, Billboard placed her number 7 on its list of the Hot 100 all-time top artists, and in 2010 ranked her 5th among the top 50 R&B/hip-hop artists of the past 25 years. In December 2016, the magazine named her the second most successful dance club artist after Madonna. Her accolades include 5 Grammy Awards, 11 Billboard Music Awards, 11 American Music Awards, an Academy Award nomination, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and 8 Guinness World Records entries. In 2019, she was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Life and career. 1966 to 1985, early life and career beginnings. Jackson, bottom row, in a 1977 CBS photo on the set of The Jacksons. Janet Damita Jo Jackson was born on May 16, 1966, in Gary, Indiana. She was the youngest of 10 children in the Jackson family, a working-class African-American family living in a 2-bedroom house on Jackson Street. Her mother, Catherine Esther Jackson, née Screws, played clarinet and piano, had aspired to be a country and western performer, and worked part-time at Sears. Her father, Joseph Walter Jo Jackson, a former boxer, was a crane operator at U.S. Steel and played guitar with a local rhythm and blues band, the Falcons, to supplement the family's income. Janet's great-great-grandfather, July Jack Gale, was a U.S. Army Scout. Family lore held that he was also a Native American medicine man. 13. Janet grew up with 2 sisters, Rebby and LaToya, and 6 brothers, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, Randy and Michael. Another brother, Marlon's twin Brendan, died shortly after birth. The Jacksons were devout Jehovah's Witnesses, although Janet would later refrain from organized religion. At a young age, Jackson's brothers began performing as the Jackson 5 in the Chicago-Gary area. In March 1969, they signed a record deal with Motown, and soon had their first #1 hit. The family then moved to the Encino neighborhood of Los Angeles. Jackson had initially desired to become a horse racing jockey or entertainment lawyer, with plans to support herself through acting. Despite this, she was anticipated to pursue a career in entertainment and considered the idea after recording herself in the studio. At age 7, Jackson and her sisters performed at the MGM Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. A biography revealed her father, Joseph, was emotionally withdrawn and told her to address him solely by his first name as a child. She began acting in the variety show The Jacksons in 1976. In 1977, she was selected to have a starring role as Penny Gordon Woods in the sitcom Good Times. She later starred in A New Kind of Family and later got a recurring role on Different Strokes, portraying Charlene Dupree from seasons 3 to 6. Jackson also played the role of Cleo Hewitt during the 4th season of Fame, but expressed indifference towards the series, largely due to the emotional stress of her secret marriage to R&B singer James DeBarge. Jackson later elaborated on her time on the show in an interview with Anderson Cooper, revealing that the cast would occasionally play pranks on her, but she spoke fondly of them. When Jackson was 15, her father and manager Joseph Jackson arranged a contract for her with A&M Records. Her debut album, Janet Jackson, was released in 1982. It was produced by Angela Winbush, Renee Moore, Bobby Watson of Rufus and Leon Silvers 3, and overseen by her father Joseph. It peaked at number 63 on the Billboard 200 and number 6 on the publication's R&B albums chart, receiving little promotion. The album appeared on the Billboard Top Black Albums of 1983, while Jackson herself was the highest-ranking female vocalist on the Billboard year-end Black Album Artists. Jackson's second album, Dream Street, was released 2 years later. Dream Street reached number 147 on the Billboard 200 and number 19 on the R&B albums chart. The lead single, Don't Stand Another Chance, peaked at number 9 on Billboard's R&B singles chart. Both albums consisted primarily of bubblegum pop music. Artistry. Music and voice. Jackson possesses a mezzo-soprano vocal range. Over the course of her career, she has received frequent criticism for the limitations of her vocal capabilities, especially in comparison to contemporary artists such as Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. In comparing her vocal technique to Houston and Aretha Franklin, vocal coach Roger Love states that, when Janet sings, she allows a tremendous amount of air to come through. She's obviously aiming for a sexy, sultry effect, and on one level that works nicely. But actually, it's fairly limited. He adds that while her voice is suitable for studio recording, it doesn't translate well to the stage because despite having great songs, incredible dancing, and her star-like presence, the live show is still magnificent. But the voice is not the star. Biographer David Ritz commented on Janet's albums and in her videos and live performances, which revealed a crisp, athletic dance technique. Singing wasn't the point, saying emphasis was placed on her slamming beats, infectious hooks, and impeccable production values. Eric Henderson of Slant magazine claimed critics opposing her small voice somehow missed the explosive gimme a beat vocal pyrotechnics she unleashes all over Nasty. Or that they completely dismissed how perfect her tremulous hesitance fits into the abstinence anthem Let's Wait a While. Classical composer Louis Andriessen has praised Jackson for her rubato, sense of rhythm, sensitivity, and the childlike quality of her strangely erotic voice. Several critics also consider her voice to often be enveloped within her music's production. Wendy Robinson of Pop Matters said the power of Janet Jackson's voice does not lie in her pipes. She doesn't blow, she whispers. Jackson's confectionery vocals are masterfully complemented by gentle harmonies and balanced out by pulsing rhythms, so she's never unpleasant to listen to. Matthew Perpetua of Flux Blog suggested Jackson's vocal techniques as a study for indie rock music, considering it to possess a somewhat subliminal effect on the listener, guiding and emphasizing dynamic shifts without distracting attention from its primal hooks. Perpetua added, her voice effortlessly transitions from a rhythmic toughness to soulful emoting to a flirty softness without overselling any aspect of her performance, a continuum of emotions and attitudes that add up to the impression that we're listening to the expression of a fully formed human being with contradictions and complexities. Jackson's music has encompassed a broad range of genres. Her records from the 1980s have been described as being influenced by Prince, as her producers are ex-members of the time, and Sal Cinquemani wrote that in addition to defining top 40 radio, she gave Prince's Minneapolis sound a distinctly feminine end, with songs like What Have You Done For Me Lately, Nasty, Control, and Let's Wait a While, a distinctly feminist spin. On Control, Richard J. Rippany documented that she, Jam, and Lewis had crafted a new sound that fuses the rhythmic elements of funk and disco, along with heavy doses of synthesizers, percussion, sound effects, and a rap music sensibility. Author Ricky Vincent stated that she has often been credited for redefining the standard of popular music with the industrial music beats of the album. She is considered a trendsetter in pop balladry, with Richard Riscart stating the black pop ballad of the mid-1980s had been dominated by the vocal and production style that was smooth and polished, led by singers Whitney Houston, Janet Jackson, and James Ingram. Jackson continued her musical development by blending pop and urban music with elements of hip-hop in the 90s. This included a softer representation, articulated by lush, soulful ballads and up-tempo dance beats. She is described by music critic Greg Kot as an artist who has reshaped the sound and image of rhythm and blues within the first decade of her career. Critic Carla Peterson remarked that she is a sharp dancer, an appealing performer, and as That's the Way Love Goes proves an ace pop songwriter. Selected material from the following decade has been viewed less favorably, as Sal Cinquemani comments, except for maybe R.E.M., no other former superstar act has been as prolific with such diminishing commercial and creative returns. Jackson has changed her lyrical focus over the years, becoming the subject of analysis in musicology, African American studies, and gender studies. David Ritz compared Jackson's musical style to Marvin Gaye's, stating, like Marvin, autobiography seemed the sole source of her music. Her art, also like Marvin's, floated over a reservoir of secret pain. Much of her success has been attributed to a series of powerful, metallic grooves, her chirpy, multi-tracked vocals, and a lyrical philosophy built on pride and self-knowledge. Ritz also stated, the mystery is the low flame that burns around the perimeters of Janet Jackson's soul. The flame feeds off the most highly combustible elements, survival and ambition, caution and creativity, supreme confidence and dark fear. During the 1980s, her lyrics embodied self-actualization, feminist principles, and politically driven ideology. Gillian G. Gard described Control as an autobiographical tale about her life with her parents, her first marriage, and breaking free. Jessie Carney Smith wrote, with that album, she asserted her independence, individuality, and personal power. She challenged audiences to see her as a transformed person, from an ingenue to a grow-up, multi-talented celebrity. Referring to Rhythm Nation 1814 as an embodiment of hope, Timothy E. Shurer wrote, it may remind some of Sly Stone prior to There's a Riot Going On and other African-American artists of the 1970s in its tacit assumption that the world imagined by Dr. King is still possible, that the American dream is a dream for all people. On Janet, Jackson began focusing on sexual themes. Shane Lee wrote that her music over the following decade branded her as one of the most sexually stimulating vocalists of the 1990s. Lily J. Yagoran observed, Jackson's evolution from politically aware musician to sexy diva marked the direction that society and the music industry were encouraging the dance rock divas to pursue. The Washington Post declared Jackson's public image over the course of her career had shifted from innocence to experience, inspiring such carnal albums as 1993's Janet and 1997's The Velvet Rope, the latter of which explored the bonds figuratively and literally of love and lust. The song Free Zone from The Velvet Rope, which portrays same-sex relationships in a positive light, is described by sociologist Shane Lee as a rare incident in which a popular black vocalist explores romantic or sensual energy outside the contours of heteronormativity, making it a significant song in black sexual politics. During the promotion for Janet, she stated, "I love feeling deeply sexual and don't mind letting the world know. For me, sex has become a celebration, a joyful part of the creative process." Upon the release of Damita Jo, Jackson stated, "Beginning with the earlier albums, exploring and liberating my sexuality has been an ongoing discovery and theme," adding, "As an artist, that's not only my passion, it's my obligation." Stephen Thomas Erlewine has found Jackson's consistent inclusion of sex in her music lacking ingenuity, especially in comparisons to other artists such as Prince, stating, "While sex indisputably fuels much great pop music, it isn't an inherently fascinating topic for pop music. As with anything, it all depends on the artist." Videos and stage. See also, Janet Jackson videography. Jackson drew inspiration for her music videos and performances from musicals she watched in her youth, and was heavily influenced by the choreography of Fred Astaire and Michael Kidd, among others. Throughout her career, she has worked with and brought numerous professional choreographers to prominence, such as Tina Landon, Paula Abdul, and Michael Kidd. Veronica Chambers declared, "Her impact on pop music is undeniable and far-reaching," adding, "A quick glance at the Billboard chart reveals any number of artists cast in the Janet Jackson mold." Chambers observed numerous videos, which features not only Ms. Jackson's dancers, but choreography and sets remarkably like those she has used. Janine Coveney of Billboard observed that Jackson's musical declaration of independence launched a string of hits, an indelible production sound, and an enduring image cemented by groundbreaking video choreography and imagery that pop vocalists still emulate. Ben Hogwood of Music OMH applauded the huge influence she has become on younger pretenders to her throne, most notably Britney Spears, Jennifer Lopez, and Christina Aguilera. Kadri Amin remarked that many pop artists pattern their performances after Janet's proven dance diva persona. Beretta E. Smithshamade wrote that Jackson's impact on the music video sphere came largely through music sales successes, which afforded her more visual liberties and control. This assuming of control directly impacted the look and content of her music videos, giving Jackson an agency not assumed by many other artists, male or female, black or white. Parallel Lines, Media Representations of Dance, 1993, documents that her videos have often been reminiscent of live concerts or elaborate musical theater. However, in her 30-minute Rhythm Nation 1814 film, Jackson utilizes street dancing techniques in contrast to traditional choreography. The group dynamic visually embodies gender-neutral equality, with Jackson performing asexually and anonymously in front of, but as one of the members of the group. Her music videos have also contributed to a higher degree of sexual freedom among young women, with Jackson heavily implying male-on-female oral sex in music videos by pushing down on a man's head until he's in exactly the right position. However, accusations of cosmetic surgery, skin lightening, and increasingly hypersexual imagery have led to her being viewed as conforming to a white, male-dominated view of sexuality rather than liberating herself or others. Jackson received the MTV Video Vanguard Award for her contributions to the art form, and she became the first recipient of the MTV Icon Tribute, celebrating her impact on the music industry as a whole. In 2003, Slant magazine named Rhythm Nation and Got Till It's Gone among the 100 greatest music videos of all time, ranked at number 87 and number 10, respectively. In 2011, Rhythm Nation was voted the 10th best music video of the 1980s by Billboard. Independent journalist Nicholas Barber stated, "Janet's concerts are the pop equivalent of a summer blockbuster movie, with all the explosions, special effects, ersatz sentimentality, gratuitous cleavage, and emphasis on spectacle over coherence that the term implies." Jet magazine reported Janet's innovative stage performances during her world tours have won her a reputation as a world-class performer. Chris Willman of the Los Angeles Times stated the enthralling choreography of Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814 tour represents the pinnacle of what can be done in the popping and locking style, a rapid-fire mixture of rigidly jerky and gracefully fluid movements. When Jackson was asked, "Do you understand it when people talk about the Velvet Rope Tour in terms of Broadway?" she responded, "I'm crazy about Broadway. That's what I grew up on." Her number one's Up Close and Personal tour deviated from the full-scale theatrics found in her previous concert arena settings in favor of smaller venues. Critics noted being scaled down did not affect the impact of her showmanship, and in some cases, enhanced it. Greg Kot of the Chicago Tribune wrote, "In past tours, Jackson's thin voice was often swallowed up by the sheer size of her production. In the more scaled-down setting, Jackson brought a warmth and a passion that wasn't always evident in stadiums, the best Janet Jackson performance I've covered in 20-plus years." Thor Christensen of the Dallas Morning News reported Jackson often lip-syncs in concert. He wrote, "Janet Jackson, one of pop's most notorious on-stage lip-syncers, conceded she uses some taped vocals to augment her live vocals. But she refused to say what percentage of her concert voice is taped and how much is live." Michael Matt Cambridge of the Austin American-Statesman, who reviewed Jackson's Rhythm Nation World Tour, described lip-syncing as a moot point, stating Jackson was frequently singing along with her own pre-recorded vocals to achieve a sound closer to radio versions of singles. Matt Cambridge also observed it seemed unlikely that anyone, even a prized member of the first family of soul music, could dance like she did for 90 minutes and still provide the sort of powerful vocals that the 90s super concerts are expected to achieve. Similarly, Chris Willman commented, "Even a classically trained vocalist would be hard-pressed to maintain any sort of level of volume or, more appropriately, control while bounding up and down stairs and whipping limbs in unnatural directions at impeccable, breakneck speed." Critics observed that in the smaller scale of her number one's Up Close and Personal tour, she forewent lip-syncing. Chris Richards of the Washington Post stated, "Even at its breathiest, that delicate voice hasn't lost the laser-like precision." Influences. Jackson describes Lena Horne as a profound inspiration for entertainers of several generations as well as herself. Upon Horne's death, she stated, "Brought much joy into everyone's lives, even the younger generations, younger than myself. She was such a great talent. She opened up such doors for artists like myself." Similarly, she considers Dorothy Dandridge to be one of her idols. Jackson has declared herself a very big Joni Mitchell fan, explaining, "As a kid I was drawn to Joni Mitchell records. Joni's songs spoke to me in an intimate, personal way." She holds reverence for Tina Turner, stating Tina has become a heroic figure for many people, especially women, because of her tremendous strength. "Personally, Tina doesn't seem to have a beginning or an end in my life. I felt her music was always there, and I feel like it always will be." She has also named other socially conscious acts, such as Tracy Chapman, Sly and the Family Stone, U2, and Bob Dylan, as sources of inspiration. In her early career, Jackson credited her brothers Michael and Jermaine Jackson as musical influences. Legacy and influence. See also, List of awards and nominations received by Janet Jackson and Janet Jackson as a gay icon. The youngest sister of the Precious Jackson clan, Janet Jackson has striven to distance her professional career from that of her older brother Michael and the rest of the Jackson family. Steve Dollar of Newsday wrote that he projects that home girl next door quality that belies her place as the youngest sibling in a family whose inner and outer lives have been as poked at, gossiped about, doca-dramatized and hard-copied as the Kennedys. Philip McCarthy of the Sydney Morning Herald noted that throughout her recording career, one of her common conditions for interviewers has been that there would be no mention of Michael. Joshua Klein wrote, or the first half of her recording career, Janet Jackson sounded like an artist with something to prove. Emerging in 1982 just as Big Brother Michael was casting his longest shadow, Jackson filled her albums not so much with songs as with declarations, from the pleasure principle to the radical-sounding Rhythm Nation to the telling statement of purpose, control. Steve Huey of AllMusic asserted that despite being born into a family of entertainers, Janet Jackson has managed to emerge a superstar in her own right, rivaling not only several female recording artists including Madonna and Whitney Houston, but also her brother, while successfully shifting her image from a strong, independent young woman to a sexy, mature adult. By forging her own unique identity through her artistry and her business ventures, she has been esteemed as the Queen of Pop. Klein argued that stardom was not too hard to predict, but few could have foreseen that Janet "Miss Jackson, if you're nasty" would one day replace Michael as true heir to the Jackson family legacy. Jackson has also been recognized for playing a pivotal role in crossing racial boundaries in the recording industry, where black artists were once considered to be substandard. Author Maureen Mahone states, in the 1980s, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, and Prince were among the African American artists who crossed over. When black artists cross over into pop success, they cease to be black in the industry sense of the word. They get promoted from racialized black music to universal pop music in an economically driven process of racial transcendence. The Routledge International Encyclopedia of Women, Global Women's Issues and Knowledge documented that Jackson, along with other prominent African American women, had achieved financial breakthroughs in mainstream popular music, receiving superstar status in the process. She, alongside her contemporaries, offered viable creative, intellectual, and business paths for establishing and maintaining agency, lyrical potency, marketing, and ownership. Her business savvy has been compared to that of Madonna, gaining a level of autonomy which enables creative latitude and access to financial resources and mass market distribution. A model of reinvention, author Jesse Carney Smith wrote that Janet has continued to test the limits of her transformative power, receiving accolades in music, film, and concert tours throughout the course of her career. Musicologist Richard J. Ripponi identified Jackson as a leader in the development of contemporary R&B, as her music created a unique blend of genre and sound effects which ushered in the use of rap vocals into mainstream R&B. He also argues her signature song Nasty influenced the new jack swing genre developed by Teddy Riley. Leon McDermott of the Sunday Herald wrote, her million-selling albums in the 1980s helped invent contemporary R&B through Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis's muscular, lean production. The sinuous grooves threaded through 1980's IXS Control and 1989's Rhythm Nation 1814 are the foundation upon which today's hotshot producers and singers rely. On March 24, 2021, the Library of Congress announced that Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814 had been added to the National Recording Registry's class of 2020, stating that the album still resonates today. Simon Reynolds described Jackson's collaborations with her record producers as a reinvention of the dance pop genre, introducing a new sonic palette. Den Barry, Virgin Records CEO and chairman, stated, Janet is the very embodiment of a global superstar. Her artistic brilliance and personal appeal transcend geographic, cultural, and generational boundaries. In July 1999, she placed at number 77 on VH1's 100 Greatest Women of Rock and Roll. She also placed at number 134 on their list of the 200 Greatest Pop Culture Icons of All Time, number 7 on the 100 Greatest Women in Music, and at number 2 on the 50 Greatest Women of the Video Era, behind Madonna. In March 2008, Business Wire reported Janet Jackson is one of the top 10 selling artists in the history of contemporary music, ranked by Billboard magazine as the 9th most successful act in rock and roll history and the 2nd most successful female artist in pop music history. She is the only female artist in the history of the Hot 100 to have 18 consecutive top 10 hit singles, from Miss You Much, 1989, to I Get Lonely, 1998. The magazine ranked her at number 7 on their Hot 150th Anniversary All-Time Top Artists, making her the 3rd most successful female artist in the history of the chart, following Madonna and Mariah Carey. In November 2010, Billboard released its top 50 R&B/hip-hop artists of the past 25 years list and ranked her at number 5. She ranks as the top artist on the chart with 15 number ones in the past 25 years, garnering 27 top 10 hits between 1985 and 2001, and 33 consecutive top 40 hits from 1985 through 2004. Recipient of 11 Billboard Music Awards, she has won an elite group of musical acts, such as Madonna, Aerosmith, Garth Brooks and Eric Clapton, whom Billboard credits for redefining the landscape of popular music. In November 2014, Jackson was voted Queen of Pop by a poll conducted online by VH1.com. In October 2015, she received her first nomination for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and 4 years later was inducted to the Hall. Jackson's music and choreography have inspired numerous performers. Virgin Records executive Lee Trink expressed, Janet is an icon and historic figure in our culture. She's one of those gifted artists that people look up to, that people emulate, that people want to believe in. There's not that many superstars that stand the test of time. Sarah Rodman of the Boston Herald remarked, "For every hand-fluttering, overwrought, melisma addict out there aping Mariah's dog calls, there's an equal number trying to match Jackson's bubbling grooves and fancy footwork, including Britney Spears, Aaliyah and Destiny's Child." Music critic Jean Stout commented she has so broadly influenced a younger generation of performers, from Jennifer Lopez to Britney Spears, who has copied so many of Jackson's dance moves. NSYNC and Usher have credited her for teaching them how to develop stage show into theatrical performance. Elisa Gardner of USA Today wrote, "Jackson claims not to be bothered by the brigade of barely post-adolescent baby divas who have been inspired by and, in some cases, have flagrantly aped the sharp, animated choreography and girlish, but decidedly post-feminist feistiness that have long been hallmarks of her performance style." Adrian Trier-Beanick stated, "Scholars trace the origins of pleasure as a black feminist commitment within popular culture to Janet Jackson, who inspired the feminist perspective found in many pop stars' careers. Those who are considered to have followed in her footsteps have been referred to as Janet Come-Latelys." Sociologist Shane Lee commented that as Janet enters the twilight of her reign as erotic queen of pop, Beyoncé emerges as her likely successor. Joan Morgan of Essence magazine remarked, "Jackson's Control, Rhythm Nation 1814 and Janet established the singer-dancer imprimatur standard in pop culture we now take for granted." So when you're thinking of asking Miss Jackson, "What have you done for me lately?" remember that Britney, Ciara and Beyoncé live in the house that Janet built. On season 30 of Dancing with the Stars in 2021, the 8th week's theme, Janet Jackson Night, was dedicated as a tribute to Jackson. 2015 to 2019, Unbreakable, Touring and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. On May 16, 2015, Jackson announced plans to release a new album and to embark on a world concert tour. She outlined her intention to release her new album in the fall of 2015 under her own record label, Rhythm Nation, distributed by BMG Rights Management. The launch of Rhythm Nation established Jackson as one of the few African-American female musicians to own a record label. On June 15, 2015, Jackson announced the first set of dates for the North American leg of her Unbreakable World Tour. On June 22, the lead single No Sleep was released from the album. Jackson's solo version of the single debuted on the Hot 100 at number 67, marking her 40th entry on the chart. The song went to number 1 on the Billboard Plus Twitter Trending 140 immediately following the release. The album version featuring J. Cole enabled it to re-enter the Hot 100 with a new peak position at number 63, while also topping the adult R&B songs chart. Jackson performing during the 2015-16 Unbreakable Tour. BET presented Jackson with their inaugural Ultimate Icon Music Dance Visual Award at the BET Awards 2015, which also featured a dance tribute to her performed by Ciara, Jason Derulo and Tinashe. It was announced she would launch a luxury jewelry line called the Janet Jackson Unbreakable Diamonds Collection, a joint venture between herself and Paul Rapp's New York. On August 20, she released a preview of a new song, The Great Forever, while also confirming the title of her 11th studio album as Unbreakable. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis stated that Jackson's concept for the album was developed simultaneously with the accompanying tour's production and that its composition will differ from the majority of her catalog. They also stated that the album's theme reflects being able to be vulnerable and to be able to withstand what comes to you, drawing on Jackson's experiences over the past several years. The album's title track Unbreakable was released on September 3, 2015, debuting on Apple Music's Beats One radio station, hosted by Ebro Darden. The album was also made available for pre-order on iTunes the same day. Burn It Up, featuring Missy Elliott, debuted on BBC Radio 1 on September 24, 2015. Unbreakable was released on October 2, 2015. It received largely positive reviews, including those by The Wall Street Journal, The New York Times, USA Today, Los Angeles Times, and The Guardian. The following week, Jackson received her first nomination to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, becoming her 7th album to top the chart in the United States. On April 6, 2016, Jackson announced that she was planning her family with husband Wissam Almana, resulting in her postponing her tour. On May 1, 2017, Jackson announced she would resume her Unbreakable World Tour, now known as the State of the World Tour. The revamped tour launched on September 7, 2017. refocusing the tour's theme to reflect socially conscious messages from Jackson's entire music catalog. Many songs selected for the concert set list, along with corresponding imagery depicted on stage, address racism, white supremacy, fascism, xenophobia, and police brutality. The tour opened to positive critical reception, with several commentators praising Jackson's post-pregnancy physical fitness, showmanship, and socially conscious messages. Her emotional rendition of What About, a song about domestic violence originally recorded for The Velvet Rope, drew media attention, highlighting her recent separation from her husband. Jackson's brother Randy alleges she suffered verbal abuse by Almana, which contributed to the breakdown of their marriage. Proceeds from the concert of September 9, 2017, at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas were donated to relief efforts supporting evacuees of Hurricane Harvey. Jackson met with Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner and evacuees at the Georgia Brown Convention Center prior to the performance. In May 2018, it was announced that Jackson would receive the Billboard Icon Award at the 2018 Billboard Music Awards. In an interview for Billboard magazine, Jackson revealed that she was then working on new music. On August 16, 2018, it was announced that Jackson and Rhythm Nation had entered into a partnership with Sync Music Group. The next day, Jackson released the single Made for Now, a collaboration with Daddy Yankee. In October 2018, she received her third nomination for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. On December 13, 2018, Jackson was announced as one of the 7 inductees of the 2019 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. On February 26, 2019, Jackson announced a 4-month Las Vegas residency entitled Metamorphosis. The initial schedule comprised 14 shows at the Park Theater at Park MGM Resort. 3 additional shows were announced in May. In September and November 2019, Jackson performed a series of concerts in support of the 30th anniversary of the Rhythm Nation album in Welch Treasure Island Resort and Casino, San Francisco, and Hawaii. In 2019, Jackson played a variety of festivals in the U.S. and abroad, including the Glastonbury Festival. 2020 present Documentaries and Together Again Tour. A 2-part documentary titled Janet Jackson for Lifetime and A&E premiered on January 28 and 29, 2022, respectively. Jackson previewed a clip of a new song, Love I Love, during the end credits of the last episode of her documentary. Jackson was set to embark on the Black Diamond World Tour in 2020. Later that year, the tour was postponed indefinitely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. She also announced her upcoming 12th studio album Black Diamond, which was scheduled for a 2020 release. On March 3, 2022, Jackson was announced as a headliner of the 2022 Essence Music Festival in New Orleans. On December 12, 2022, Jackson announced she was going on tour again starting April 14, 2023, with her Together Again tour, and teased new music. On March 8, 2023, Lifetime and A&E announced that it had greenlighted a follow-up documentary series, Janet Jackson, Family First. The series will follow Jackson as she prepares for her Together Again tour, as well as her and brother Randy's attempts to reunite the family band.